Hello, Dr. Wilson. I have looked at the videos about syncretism, and I'm still not clear on what you mean and what you wanted us to gather out of those videos. Can you explain a little more in depth?
Happy to. And let me try, because I'm aware too that it's a very difficult concept. So I thought I would try to use some symbols this time. Let me start with the famous Chinese symbol, the yin-yang symbol. Now this yin-yang symbol, and if we were in Christianity, we're talking about that, the sign of the cross, we know what that was. If we were Jewish, we had the Star of David, that's it. This is kind of a very important symbol for the Chinese. It is, and everybody's very conscious, you know, of how there are teardrops, a black teardrop and a white teardrop, and a black dot and a white dot. That so takes you that they miss one important point. Most people who talk about DNA don't talk about where it starts. And it starts with this. It starts with just plain old circle. Now there's some significance to that, and I want to talk about that. For the Chinese, everything is in this circle. China is in this circle. And they call what they live in, not China, they call it Zhonghua, which means middle kingdom or middle government. In other words, they see themselves as at the center of the universe. Well, we've done that from time to time ourselves, so that's not too strange. But the degree to which they believe that they have everything they need in China is very important. One of the reasons why the Chinese do not have a record of aggression. They could have conquered all of the West in 500 AD. Their own empire had fallen. Nobody had any organized government. They could have easily conquered the whole thing. Could have done it again in about 1200 or 1400. They could have done all that. They didn't. Why? Because they had everything they needed right here in this one circle. And if you were to look at a map of China and lay this over the map of China, the heartland of China, where the Han Chinese, the native Chinese live, is in a section that you put on a map fit your hand. Now they had some outlying areas like Manchuria, Mongolia, the Turkish areas. They have Tibet. These are on the outside. They are things the Chinese conquered to give themselves a buffer. But past the buffer, no interest. So they are not, people think of them as a threat, but they forget that the Chinese had 2,300 years never attacking anybody far away from their shores. They just want to be safe in their own area. So the circle is very important, and I want to make a lot out of this circle, because I'm going to say that inside this circle is not just China, the territory, but inside this circle is China, the thought. I'm saying, think of it as if all of Chinese traditional thought, with a Confucian core, but with pieces of Taoism, pieces of Buddhism, pieces of this, pieces of that, are incorporated. That's what we're going to get to for Syncretism. It is this ability to blend ideas. I talked in another video about the blending of religions. This time I'm going to talk about all kinds of things, including political things. So let me go on to another set of circles. Now here we have circles. Up here in this corner, we have a circle for China. And in the middle of it, it says traditional thought with a Confucian core. Okay, that's one whole circle. Now there are other thought systems, like Buddhism. Okay, here's Buddhism over here. It's another circle. And down here I have Marxism. I'm going to treat it like it's a religion, because in a way it is. It's atheism. But atheism, which says there is no God, can also be a religion. I mean, I know some atheists who are just fervently religious. Like any other fervently religious person I know, they're just absolutely determined to prove to me there is no God, which of course they can't really do, because you can't prove either there is a God or there isn't. You have to believe it. You either believe it or you don't. Okay. Now, here's what I want to make a point about this. With Buddhism, Buddhism came to China after the Chinese already had animism, they already had Confucianism, they already had Taoism. Along about 500 AD, Buddhism comes to China. It came by missionaries, I suppose, or wandering monks who came to China and brought their ideas. And some of it was attractive. One of the reasons it's attractive is that it talks about God in a special way. It does more than animism does. It's a coherent collection of thoughts about God. That's left out of Confucianism, you see, and it's left out of Taoism. Taoism is just the way, like a force of nature. But, it's not having any personal dimension. So Buddhism was attractive for them. So Buddhism comes along and it has some good ideas. It talks about perfecting the soul. Chinese can relate to that. It talks about helping poor people. Confucius would say that was a good idea. But then it wants to talk about reincarnation. So somebody dies and their soul goes somewhere else. Well, if it goes in Buddhism, if you're bad, you go to be a lower animal. Chinese are not interested in that. Oh, no, I've got to have my ancestors. So you see, that's where the overlap occurs. They take something and they leave the rest of it out. You go there and you see Buddhism, you say, oh, the Chinese are Buddhists. Well, no, actually they're not. Just a little bit Buddhist, if the Buddhism has been blended into the whole story.